How long can you flog a dead horse? If you're the ACT Party leader David Seymour, you'll flog it hoping it miraculously comes back to life and wins the race against all odds. I'm talking about ACT's Treaty Principles Bill, which the Prime Minister says National won't support, effectively making the bill dead on arrival. But Seymour is undeterred, launching a public information campaign in a bid to get the public on board, which in turn he hopes will force Luxon's hand. Luxon, though, says he won't change his mind.
I don't think that's a possibility. I think the reality for us is that it's been a long-standing position of the National Party, my own personal view as well. It's not something that we support at all. We were very strong about that before the election, if you remember.
We've got David Seymour in studio, the ACT Party leader. Thank you very much for coming in. You would have heard Christopher Luxon yesterday. Do you think you can change his mind?
Yeah, look, I mean, last week he wouldn't rule out supporting it further. Yesterday he would. I think perhaps he got a bit nervous after Waitangi, but ultimately the bit I don't believe is that he won't change his mind if the public really want it. All politicians are very mindful of what the public want, and I've seen polls published in the Herald that said that 60% of New Zealanders agree with what we're saying on the treaty, 18% disagree. They want this debate, and I think ultimately it's not about what I think or what Chris thinks or what we say right now. It's where the public are at in maybe a year's time when this thing comes up. And I just also point out that we've actually been here before. At the start of the John Key government, ACT introduced the 3 strikes idea. National at the time said, oh no, we'd never, it's just not going to happen. You ask anyone from the National Party today, it's the best idea they ever had, 3 strikes. In fact, we're about to bring it back, and that's a great thing because we've been far too soft on criminals in the recent times.
Has Luxon backed himself into a corner with what he said? Because he's closed the door essentially, because he did leave it open for a while there, but he's closed it. Has he backed himself into a corner? Because if you manage to convince the public that this is a good idea, and Luxon sees that, he's going to have to change his mind on this.
Well, maybe, but look, I think there's actually bigger issues here. I mean, Chris is doing his thing, and I respect him for that. But on the other hand, you've got to think about what the public wants and needs. The Treaty of Waitangi for the last 40 years has had these principles developed. They've been developed by the courts, by the Waitangi Tribunal, by the public service. They've told us that there's a partnership between the Crown and Māori, which means that the status of everyone else in New Zealand's a bit unclear. Now, we're proposing that maybe we need to have a proper public discussion about the treaty, not just judges, not just the Waitangi Tribunal, not just public servants, actually everyone, because we all have a stake in living in this country. And I think once people see that discussion, and our treaty.nz website is about that campaign, about getting the real information about what we're proposing out there, I think people will say, actually, this is not changing the treaty, it's not getting rid of the treaty, it is actually making sure that the principles of the treaty, the lens through which we view it, looking back to 1840, is actually inclusive and says actually all people have the same rights and duties. Because
we don't have treaty principles at the moment, right? They're not defined anywhere. I mean, Longi tried to do it, his government tried to do it in the 80s, and I think New Zealand First, during their time in the 90s, they kind of got rid of all of that, and the courts have been trying to define it, but there is no definition despite it being in law, and New Zealand First wants to get rid of it out of all legislation, any reference to it. So what's the point in defining it if it's going to be deleted from our legislation?
Well, a couple of things. So if you just go back, I mean, 1975, the Treaty of Waitangi Act, Parliament said there are principles of the treaty, didn't say anything more. And so since then, it's just kind of been floating around. Now, in fairness, the courts have set a set of principles. As you say, Longi defined a set of principles, but Parliament itself, the representative of the people, has never defined them. Now, you say, hang on a minute, we're going to remove this whole term principles from lots of laws anyway, and that's true. Our coalition agreement with New Zealand First and National says we should do that, and I agree. But nonetheless, there's still going to be a question of what this treaty means in the modern context. It matters for private organisations, it matters for school boards, it matters for employers, and at the moment, what we've been told by the courts and others is the treaty's a partnership between the Crown and Māori, and it leaves a big open question mark. If Māori have a right to tiraranga, tiratanga or self-determination, what does everyone else in New Zealand have? And I think to be a successful country, you've got to have equal rights and duties for every kid born today, whether your ancestors have been here for 1,000 years or, just this morning there will be people got off the plane at Auckland Airport to start their journey as New Zealanders. I think ultimately the state should give them all the same basic rights and duties.
Can I ask about the website, treaty.nz, big flashy website, and it's got lots of, the whole point of it, because I got an email from you yesterday saying, "Hi Lloyd, the media aren't correcting misinformation, so head to this website." So is it about correcting?
Did you go?
I did. I had to look at the website. Yeah.
It's working already.
And I realised that I hadn't been spreading any misinformation at all. So a lot of people are accusing your website of being disinformation, that you're the ones spreading the misinformation. What misinformation is out there? One of the ones that I think people will be quite interested in is about treaty settlements. You're not going to get rid of treaty settlements.
No.
You're not going to get rid of the Waitangi Tribunal. Is that the kind of stuff you're talking about?
That's right. Look, the treaty settlements, as far as I'm aware, ACT's voted for every treaty settlement for the last 27 years, certainly since I've been the leader the last 10 years. If people lost their land, suffered all sorts of grief in the past, then we should put that right as well as we can. The problem is you can't give private property owned today, take someone's house and give it back to the local iwi, but there are things we can do to make that right, and we fully support that process. However, I just also make the point that most of the treaty settlements are now settled. 2008 was the deadline for bringing in any more, so that stays, that's there. The real question is, what is the rights and duties of a New Zealander going forward? And we just say that, if there's going to be a, say, resource management law that consults people, it should consult all people equally. If there's going to be, say, a public body like a healthcare system, then it should treat people based on need rather than race.
Can I ask who's funding this whole campaign? Because it's not a government thing, it's an ACT Party thing. So who's giving you the money for it?
Well, we got, last time I checked, about 16,000 people that have given ACT money in the last few years, and we don't sort of take a particular dollar and say that one goes there. So,
but is there an individual donor or a company or anyone who's come in and gone, you know what, here's a couple of $1 million, go and sort this treaty thing out?
If anyone does want to give ACT a couple of $1 million, please, get in touch. But no, there's nothing like that. I think the average person that makes a donation is under $100, but like I say, there's 16,000 people that have donated around lately.
Okay, because there's lots of allegations floating around that there's some rich racist person who's giving you money to do this. Is that the case?
Well, look, if some rich person wants to give us money, that's great. If some racist person wants to give us money, I think you need to look more closely at what ACT's proposing, which is actually that all people, no matter what your race, should have the same basic rights and dignity, be included in our country, have the same opportunity to be who you are. So no, anyone's welcome to give us money, and we gratefully accept donations, but not the way you're proposing.
And are you hitting the road as well? Are you going around the country? Because you've got to build public support. You don't have parliamentary support. That's the only way you're going to get it through. Yeah,
look, we've done a lot of town hall meetings, and we'll be doing a lot more this year. We'll be getting out, we'll be talking to people. In my capacity as the Associate Minister of Justice, who's responsible for this bill for the government, we've still got to go through Cabinet and get the government's agreement to exactly what that looks like. But I expect that it's going to be a listening exercise. We're not just going to say, here it is, guys, this is what you get, and then eventually a bill will get to Parliament and there'll be a select committee, and again, all people, not just judges, not just Waitangi, all people can have a go at saying what they want our constitutional future to be in respect of the principles of the treaty.
Yeah, it's no mean feat. Good luck for it. Good on you. Thank you so much. That is the ACT Party leader, David Seymour.